Before we get going, I'd love to introduce you to my family. They are entirely too cute to be on the stage with me. You would not listen to a thing that I'm saying, so I've brought this picture. First, maybe a little bit about me. So my name's Jonathan, and originally I'm from Miami. That's why I don't talk like you guys real cool like. I moved from Miami to a small little town right outside of Clarksville, population 10,000 including cows, and talk about like culture shock. Like I love Houston County, but man, these brothers walking around with big old dinner plates on their belt buckle. I was like, what is up? We don't do that in Florida. And man, these dudes, they had tight jeans on before the hipsters were doing it. These goat roper cowboy guys had just like, I'm not at home. I am not at home. I'm on another planet. So culture shock was not an understatement. It was like, wow. And it took me a while, if I could just be honest. It took me a while to adjust and to lean in and to find home there. And can I tell you that I've fallen in love with this space now? I've fallen in love with it. I met Jesus in a sincere way in Houston County, and that has forever changed the trajectory of my life. I wouldn't be the same dude without that community. So I'm just so grateful for them and the cows too. So it's great. Hey, I've been married for 5 years now. That means I'm pretty much a pro at it. So if you need any help, I'll be in the back afterwards. I'll help you with all of that. My beautiful wife, Alejandra, is from Colombia, South America. I met her on a missions trip. So all you single guys, can I see the single guys? No, don't do that, it's kind of shady, but it worked out for me, all right? So I met her on a missions trip. We were leading some students from Austin P down to Colombia to do some work there, and she was serving with the church. And man, I'm not one of those guys that just like I don't do that. Friends, I was doing that. I saw her and I immediately thought, hey girl, hey. She was beautiful, like kind of beautiful. And then the very next thing that was the most attractive to me ever was that she loved Jesus more than she loved anybody else. The first time I saw her, she was just sharing a testimony about how the Lord challenged her to step out in faith and to do something bold, and she just did it. And I was just like, come on with me. You the one, let's go. But baby, I love you, and I'm so grateful to have you in my life. I wouldn't be here without you. And just a quick shout out to all the moms in the room. I am learning that my wife is a superhero. We have 2 kids now. They are beautiful and they're wonderful. Can we just give our moms just a big hand? I'm home with our 2 kids and she's like, baby, I need to go to the store. I'm like, how long are you gonna be gone? I don't know how she does it, and I don't know how all you guys do it, but thank you so much. Our world would be crazy if you guys weren't loving on. And some dads that are staying at home doing that, I see you too, okay? Cole is the cute, chunky one that may be up on the screen with the family picture you might have saw in a minute ago. Cole is now almost 3 years old. He'll be three days before my birthday. So our birthdays are 3 days apart. Talk about like the coolest birthday gift ever, right? Isn't that sweet? So Cole is really, really great, and I'm grateful to him because he's teaching me how to be a dad. Are there any parents that can relate to that? He's my first. He's so patient and so loving with me. I feel like he's kind of still in like that puppy dog stage, like where you can be yelling at him or you're mad or something like that, and then or I've got to give a spanking for something because he's done something wrong, and then in the midst of the tears, he's like, can I have a hug? And I'm just like, yes, you can have a hug. And it doesn't matter what I do, like he just loves me, just like the cute little awesome dude, and he's teaching me how to be a dad. And if I loved and trusted the Lord the way my son loves and trusts me, friends, I'd be walking on water backwards. Like there's some sweet things that we can learn from our kids, and I'm so grateful for him. We've just had Amada. She is 5 months old and is a super sweet addition to our family. One morning I was just looking at her and she was laying on the bed, and I was just kind of checking her out, and I felt like the Lord began to speak to me, and he said, Jonathan, never pass up a moment. Never pass up a moment to love your daughter deeply. And you could say your son deeply. I don't think it's specific for me. He was just talking about my daughter, and he says, time's gonna pass really quickly, and before you know it, you're gonna be giving her to someone else to love and to lead. And I was just like, Jesus, like, I don't wanna waste a moment. I don't wanna waste a moment, and I'm finding that one of the most valuable things I can ever give my kids is just my attention. So maybe that's for somebody. Maybe put something down or turn something off and spend some time with these little suckers that are just sucking everything up from you. I was just about 3 years into being a dad, now just about there, and I gotta tell you, like, I love it. Like, I absolutely love being dad. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying it's easy. You see our cute family picture, you think everything's normal in our lives. Baby, we ain't normal. We're not normal, and you probably aren't either. But I love it. I love the opportunity to get to just invest in my kids' lives. You see, for about 2 decades now, I've been discipling other people's kids. Throughout the years, I've had the privilege of discipling other people's kids, but I think the thing that I love the most about being a dad is I get the privilege to disciple my own children now. And can I tell you guys that if you're not discipling your kids, somebody else will. Somebody else will, and you may not like the values or the things that they are putting stock in. So I would encourage you guys to continue to just make space. Make space to make intentional investment in your kids, and don't let them hear it from their school teacher. I love teachers, and you guys are fantastic, but mom and dad should be the first people speaking into their lives. That's why we're mom and dad. Discipleship in our families is messy though, right? Yes, it is. It's messy, right? Because we can't just like retweet famous pastors and authors and stuff at home. It falls pretty flat, doesn't it? It falls flat because they see your life. They see your life. They know all about what's going on at home. And the fruit sometimes that we can fake in public, it's a little harder to fake that at home. Oh, you guys don't like me now? That's fine. I got 20 more minutes, I'll be out, okay? Don't worry about it. But sometimes we offer our kids a truth that may or may not be reflected in our lives. And I feel like if you want to know what fruit are present in my life, you need, Cole, is your poppy gentle? Is your poppy kind? Is your poppy self-controlled? Discipleship in our families is messy, but it's worth it. You know what? Discipleship is messy everywhere. And it's not about having the right answers. I think it's just about fighting to live right. Amen. It involves welcoming people into your life. And don't hear me. I'm not saying that if you're going to make disciples, you've got to be perfect. Have you guys read the Bible? He had 12 suckers following him for 3 years, watching him do all kinds of miracles. And at the end of that, they're still waving swords trying to chop people's faces off. Still not sure that he's the Son of God. Jesus isn't looking for people that are perfect or they're just going to do all the right things. But what he is looking for is people that are willing. The only criteria that he gave each of those dudes that followed him was, will you follow me? That is a concession to, I'm willing. I'm willing to do this. And if any of you are willing, I'm convinced that he'll use you as well. Yes, he will. Have you met Jesus? Are you willing? That's it. That's all it takes. Those are the qualities that I look for on the campus. If I'm going to have a student begin stepping into discipling other students, that's it. You ain't got to be perfect. I'm not perfect. Ask Cole. You just have to know Jesus and then be willing. Are you guys ready for the altar call? Not yet. I'm going to give it now. I'm going to give it now, and then you can spend the next 20 minutes thinking about it and how you'll respond. You ready? Here's the altar call. Will you host a connect group? That's it. That's all that I'm asking of you. Will you open your eyes to the people that are all around you that need something deeper? Yes. They need to benefit from meeting and learning about God in the context of a connect group. You see, sometimes I think that we can make church all about what we get. Come on. Oh, Lord. Come on. Come on. Those 12 dudes didn't follow Jesus for what they could get. That's right. He said it's what you can give. Hallelujah. It's what you can offer. So would you be willing to host a Connect group? I believe that there are people in this room that aren't happy with, "Hi, Frank, how you doing?" And then, "See you next week, Frank," after that. I feel like there's probably some people in this space that are craving something a little bit more. That are like, "Frank, how you doing, man?" when your wife is pissed off and you don't know how to communicate with her. Or you're looking for someone to have some honest conversation when your kids go through another stage that was tougher than the other one. Or maybe you just want someone to talk to when Pastor Tony was saying da 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 da. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? Or maybe your kids have already grown and they're getting ready to move away, and then now you got to figure out who the heck you are.
Come on. Oh, Lord, come on. Come on.
Are you looking for that type of relationship? And I bet you are. You want community because we're made for it. We were designed from the very beginning to exist in community. Would you host? You don't have to answer now. Keep thinking about it. But be ready, because discipleship can be messy. And when you're deciding to host, when you're willing to host, that's discipleship. It's messy on campus. Did you guys like the cute little clip of all the smiling, happy college students and stuff that Joe played? Wasn't that nice? That was us putting our best foot forward. That was helping you guys give money. Do you want to see what campus ministry is sometimes like? All right, well, let me show you what discipleship is sometimes like. Go ahead and play that video. Friends, let me tell you, there is no way to be prepared for a holy right hook. Right in the middle of baptism. There's no way. We had to dunk that girl again, because if you come up swinging, we didn't hold you down long enough. You guys can put a little extra in the offering for that. I've been discipling people of all ages for years, and it's messy. It's messy, that's part of it. You may not be getting physically hooked in the face, but sometimes spiritually it can feel like that. For the rest of our time, I want to tell you a story. The whole rest of our time together, I'm just going to tell you a story, and I'm going to be really honest with you. The whole purpose of my story is to get you to try to fall in love with discipleship and be willing to host a Connect group. I'm just being really open. That's what I'm here for. I'm not some fancy preacher. I'm not really sure why I'm here. You guys maybe identified that by now, but I just love Jesus. And I feel like that if I can help other people love Jesus, then they'll 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 help other people love Jesus. And I think that I could probably get going, but you probably want to hear the story instead. Hey, so I started 10 years ago doing Chi Alpha at Austin Peay State University. So I'm a missionary to university students. It's kind of like a missionary would go to like China or to Thailand or Africa or whatever. We recognize that the university is a really strategic mission field that requires you becoming embedded in its culture. That's why I look weird and I speak weird and I act weird. I'm learning to pretend I'm still a college student even though I'm 37. So just go with it. Just go with it. They periodically tell me, they're like, "Jonathan, you're old." And I'm like, "Shut up." I'll rebuke that. I'm not. I'm so cool. I am so cool. 10 years ago, I got started, and then 10 years before that, I was a staff pastor for a local church. God gave me this vision for the university, and I feel like He told me that if I could transform university students, if I could lead them to Him and then be transformed by Him, then they would in turn transform the world. So I believed Him. I mean, He's God, right? Probably if we're going to believe somebody, that's a pretty good start. It sounded a little crazy, but I'm here for it. Cool. I'll go reach university students. So months moving towards the launch, I began asking the Lord, like, what do you want me to do? How is this thing supposed to work? Obviously, I was a Chi Alpha missionary. I received some training and stuff, but Lord, like, that's the general stuff. Like, you tell me what's up. Tell me, like, me, what do you want me to do? And it was really fun. In the midst of that conversation, she's like, "Jonathan, reach." And I'm like, "Yes, Lord." And He's like, "Reach 7 students." And I'm like, "What? Don't you know how good I am at this?" He's like, "Reach 7 students." And I'm like, "Lord, that's good. I'll do that. Look, I'm taking notes, but what else? What else do you want me to do?" And He's like, just 7. And I'm like, yes, Lord, yes, I'm going to do that. I'm going to reach 7 students. And then what happened is the Lord supernaturally brought me 7 students, and that's another story for another time, but there's a photo I want to show you of those 7 students. Man, it was cool. The Lord just brought these people to me. If you're counting them, there's one more person there that was a staff person that was helping me at a time. And can we just appreciate that camera phones have come a long way? 10 years can do a lot for technology, so we're excited about that. So I spent the next 11 months like pouring my guts into these 7 students, those 7 students, teaching them everything I knew about Jesus and about discipleship. And night after night, I gave them everything I had. Like I just poured it all into them. I did such a great job discipling them that at the end of that time, only 2 of them wanted to have anything to do with us. I ran off 75% of my disciples. Guys, I was devastated. I was devastated. I was like, Jesus, I left a consistent paycheck to be a missionary. I sold my home and moved away. I traded my plans for your plans, and then what? What? And then maybe you're above discouragement, but can I be honest? I was not. I was not, and I needed some space. After only 12 months of reaching university students, I needed some space from students. The recreation department on our campus was doing a backpacking trip, 100 miles on the Appalachian Trail and the AT. Any backpackers in the house? There's not usually many, but I just love to find them. Yeah, I see you. You'd rather be outside, wouldn't you? You want to go? No? Later? Okay, later. We'll go outside. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go backpacking. Let's go backpacking. I'll get away from all of this stuff, and I'll just kind of do my own thing. So I sign up, and I knew that there would be students there, but I just decided I'm not missionary Jonathan on this trip. I just need to kind of figure out. I'm discouraged, I'm disappointed, I'm confused, Jonathan, and I don't think I have anything more to give, really, in this moment. Have you guys ever felt like you tried to do something for God and it didn't turn out the way you expected it to? Anybody? I think sometimes that's not an exception to God's plan. I think that is God's plan. Because that if we become dependent on the result in our purview, sometimes we stop becoming dependent on the Father. That's really good preaching from someone that's not in that disappointing moment now, right? Isn't that good? Isn't that really good? But I didn't know that at the time, so I was discouraged, and I was like, man, I don't know what I need to do. And I know that you guys all understand the game plan is that when we're discouraged from the Lord, the most mature thing to do is to go away and sulk for a while, right? That's what we do, and that's what I was doing. I was just gonna go away and I was gonna sulk. So I got on that hike and I purposed to do my own thing. I'm doing my own thing. This is what's up. I'm just gonna go, and I don't have time for anybody. I'm gonna avoid students. Say, shame on you, Jonathan. Give me your best judgmental Christian eyes. Very good, very good. Some of you guys are too good. So I was gonna go on that hike, and I was gonna avoid students. I was gonna stay out in front of the group so that no one would get in the way of me having a bad attitude. And it worked. It worked for more than half the hike. Then, like he always does, like a faithful dad, God started to speak. He said, you did a great job leading those 7 students, Jonathan. You did a great job. But you were leading them into you. And I need you to lead them into me. And then he got really honest with me. He said, I don't need your talent. I don't need your charisma. And I don't even need your hard work. All I need is your willingness. What I'm going to do at Austin P is so beautiful and so incredible that I don't want anyone else taking credit for it, and that includes you. He began to remind me of the story of Gideon. Do you guys know Gideon's story? Some of you guys, let me summarize some of it for you. So it's told in the Bible from Judges 6 through Judges 8. And if you've never read it, I encourage you to mark it in your Bible right now or in your phone app. And instead of turning on the TV or being on your phone later tonight, you should read the story of Gideon. Judges 6, 7, and 8. But I want to summarize it for you. So just kind of like to whet your palate and to get you going. So basically imagine this. Your friends, your family, everyone that you know and are familiar with, they're imprisoned. They're taken advantage of in all the ways that you understand what being taken advantage of. Their animals are killed, their homes are destroyed, their friends and families are being murdered before their eyes as the enemy catches them. They're forced to live in caves for fear of their lives. They were hopeless and helpless. Pretty dreary, right? Pretty rough situation that the Bible is telling us about. But then they cry out to God. Save us, God, save us. We suck. We've done it bad again. Would you rescue us? And he does. And God provides an answer to their request in a very unlikely kind of hero. You see, Gideon was the least notable or important person in his community at the time. He had a pretty shallow relationship with God, if really any at all. No real training at all for what God was asking him to do. When you guys are honest with yourselves and you're sizing yourself up, do you sometimes feel like you're unqualified for the things that God is asking you to do?
Yeah.
I get that. Sometimes he's asking us to step out of where we're most familiar or we're most capable. Why do you think he does that? He's trying to make it hard? God, you hard. Is he trying to do that? I'm convinced that when I exist in the space where I feel comfortable and I have the ability to move and to manipulate things, it's really easy for me to rely upon me.
Yep. Yeah.
So therefore, when I secure outcomes, atta boy, Jonathan, you did it this time. Good job, so proud of you. But then when I move from the place that I'm most secure to a place where I am just completely out there, I'm at the end of myself. Anything that happens, I know has to be the Lord. And I think sometimes we get really good at existing in this space, and I think you can die and go to heaven existing in this space. But I don't know that you can do great things for the kingdom of God existing in this space. I think that if we're going to be people that change and transform the world, we've got to be willing to exist in this space, which means admitting that we're not actually the ones changing the world. We're just offering our willingness to the Father, and He's transforming the world. There's a really cool verse in Corinthians. I don't know if you guys have got this yet, but I really like attention. I just enjoy it. I enjoy it. That's just the way that I'm wired. I know that about me, and it's awful, okay? It's awful. I was that kid that every time I do some dumb thing, I'd be like, Mommy and Daddy, and I needed an orchestra of praise, all right? That was me. Here I am. So I think sometimes what's challenging is that we want to be able to do and to secure it for ourselves, and we want the praise, but the Father's not willing to share it. So I've had to take some of those natural tendencies that love the pat on the back and love being seen, and I've had to learn how to be humble and be like, Father, I want to exist in this space where I'm not in control. Would you use my willingness? It looks ugly, and here I am on a stage in front of people on my knees, but I want you to use my willingness. Because I don't have anything that's attractive or that's wonderful or that's great, just you. And then he says something really cool in Corinthians. He says that we have this treasure in jars of clay.
Yes, we do.
You, me, we those jars of clay. This treasure, yeah, that's him and his power. It says we have this treasure in jars of clay so that people will know that this all-surpassing power, that should be a part of our lives, it's from above and not our own. So I think that Gideon feels like an unlikely hero, but according to some God sort of criteria, he was the best choice. He was the best choice. And I think the one thing that he had going for him more than just sucking at life in general was that he believed that God could use his willingness to do something bigger than he could understand. Pause for just a second with me. Do you allow yourself to imagine things bigger than you can understand? Bigger than you can secure the outcome? How long has it been since you've imagined the impossible? And I'm not talking about that you're going to drive up in a Ferrari, friends. I mean, he could do it, right? Won't he do it? But I'm talking about like things that you'd like to see Jesus do that are impossible, that aren't just going to like pat your butt.
Come on. Yeah, come on.
I think that's a muscle in me sometimes that that's kind of weak. I do really good with reality and securing outcomes. My wife, she's got faith for this whole room. She's like, you know what, Lord? Our family is all moved everywhere, so we're kind of just doing our thing in Houston County. So her family's obviously in Colombia and South America, and my family's in Florida and all this, whatever. So we're having kids, and you know there ain't nothing like having a grandma.
Amen.
There ain't nothing like having a grandma. And grandma's just not around. And one of the best things about grandma is that you can just be shameless when you ask them for things. Grandma, we just need you to come take care of this kid because we're about to just explode. Or whatever, right? So we don't have like a grandma in our lives. And my wife is like, oh, it's no big deal. I'm just going to ask God for one. And I'm like, sure, baby, ask him for a grandma. And she begins to just pray and ask Jesus, would you bring a grandma for our kids? In moves this little old lady right across the street from us. She shows up without us asking just to bless our kids. When we had our second one, she brought us an army worth of food. Anytime we need anything, she's just there for it. Having a faith for things that are impossible. So Gideon was willing to offer himself to the Lord so that he could do something impossible. He was unsure. He was scared. But he was willing. So 32,000 men rally around Gideon. 32,000, that's pretty cool. This willing leader. The enemy had around 135,000. That's just a little less than trying to fight all of the city of Clarksville, just in case you want some perspective. But then check this out. This is really crazy. In Judges 7, verse 1 and 2, it says this. It says, early in the morning, Jerubbaal, that's Gideon, that's his name, and all his men camped at the spring of Harod. The camp of Midian, these are the bad guys, was north of them in a valley near the hill of Moreh. So it's giving us some location. And then check out verse 2. This is the most important part. And then it said, the Lord said to Gideon, you have too many men. I cannot deliver Midian into their hands, or Israel would boast against me. My own strength has saved me. Then what God does next is even crazier. He slowly begins to dismiss parts of Gideon's already really small army. First, he sends home around 22,000 men. He just sends them home and leaves just 10,000. And then he says that that's still too many. It's still too many men, so then he sends home 9,700, leaving only 300 men. If you're a math person, which most of you are not, but for the four that are in here, that's a 12-to-1 ratio. 12-to-1. 135,000 against 3. That's a big deal. I don't know. I'm not going to that battle. Send me home, Lord. Send me home. So when the day of battle comes, check this out. The enemy is terrified. God has been giving them dreams of terror and dread about Gideon, and then just super hyping his army up. God's doing that. They're so terrified that when Gideon shows up and blows his horn for battle, these suckers start killing themselves. They did. Read the Bible. There's all kinds of crazy stuff in there. These fools just start chopping on each other, all right? So that's what they're doing. They're chopping on each other. And at the end of the battle, it says that Gideon and his men did not kill a single person. God told them to save their weapons and to leave them in their camp and to come without them, that he was going to take care of this. So God defeats the enemy of an army of 135,000 with Gideon's men of 300 that didn't lay a finger on them. It's really cool once we begin to start stretching that muscle of believing God for something impossible. I hear this and I'm like, Lord, that's incredible. But the thing that we have to know is that our willingness is the hinge. Our willingness is the pivot point. Gideon could have been like, peace, dog, nah, you find somebody else. But he was like, all right, like I don't think that I fit for this, but sure, I guess I don't have anything else to lose, I'll do it. God told me on that hike, it has to be him.
Amen.
He said, it has to be him. Believe me to use your willingness to do things that are bigger than you can understand. And he began to say, Jonathan, if you'll lead people into me, I'll do things you never could. I'll change and transform them, then the world around them. And all I need is your willingness. All he needs is our willingness. If we're still for a moment, can you hear him whispering the same thing to you? I don't need your spirituality. I don't need you to be perfect. I don't need your experience or your lack of experience. I don't need you to have all of the answers. I don't need you to be smart, to be pretty, to be brave all the time, to have perfect kids, or to have any kids. You don't have to be old, and you don't have to be young. I only need you to believe that I can use your willingness. Would you be willing to help make him known to other people? I just want to stop and look at all of you guys. Would you be willing to help make him known to other people? Because if you are, that's all he needs.
Yes, it is.
That's it. That's the only thing. And almost on cue, after speaking to me about Gideon during my hike, a student named Corey, who spent the entire previous 8 days at the back of the line. This dude, I'll leave that part of the story out, but he was at the back, all right? So we'll just say that. But then on the last day, after hiking 90 miles, he decides he's gonna triple his pace to keep up with me at the front. And I'm like, what is this dude doing? So you can see a picture. This is Corey, a good friend of mine. So he catches up to me and he says, hey. And I say, hey. And then silence. He caught up to me to say, hey. We hike for about 2 more hours before he speaks again. He says, you're religious, right? And I said, I love Jesus. I wouldn't say that I'm religious. And he says, okay. Then out of nowhere, he just says this, and this is kind of why I love college students. You go from like right here to like super close, like that. So we go from, you're religious, right, to, hey, I've been living with my girlfriend for the last several years. Do you think that there's no hope for me and God's gonna send me to hell? That's his question. And I'm like, the Holy Spirit just begins to talk to me. He says, are you done being a baby, Jonathan? I don't know how he talks to you. That's just how he talks to me. Like, are you done being a baby? And can you still believe I'll move through your willingness? Because I'd like to do something in Corey's life if you're willing. Come on, it's good. Don't let him catch you in moments trying to transform the people around us and us not be willing. Come on now. And I was like, yes, sir. Yes, sir, thank you. Thank you for not passing me by. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for giving me just a couple minutes of being a big, fat adult baby and still loving me. Yeah. So then I replied to Corey and I said, God designed sex to take place between married people. That was his plan. That's what he wanted. And I never try to decide who's going to hell or not. Like, that isn't my thing. But what I can tell you is that if you're willing to trust God with your life, he can't wait to have a relationship with you.
Amen.
He says, okay, thanks. And then silence. Doesn't say anything for the remaining 3 hours. He's just silent the whole time. So we part ways, and I say, all right, well, maybe I'll see you on campus sometime. He's like, oh, okay, cool, great. He was just that kind of guy. So leaves, and the semester is going to start 2 months later, and I didn't honestly think very much of it. There are 13,000 students on campus at Austin P at any given time, and what are the chances that I'm going to bump into this guy? Well, School starts and it's the second day. Jonathan, hey, how you doing? Hey. And I'm like, hey, Corey, what's going on? He's like, well, blah, 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 small talk. And then he's like, can I hang out with you guys? And I'm like, yeah, dude, of course. I'm saved again at this point, so I'm welcoming, and I want him to be a part of things and all of that. And he's like, yeah. And he continued to hang out and continued to hang out and continued to hang out and continued to hang out. And about 2 months later, Corey gives his heart to Jesus. What you don't know about Corey is he was on that hike with me, and I didn't know this. He was on that hike with me because his girlfriend said, enough is enough. Corey had spent the last 3 years of his life being drunk. Literally the most high functional drunk I have ever met. And she was like, I know that you cannot hike 100 miles and carry the weight of enough alcohol to stay drunk that time. So you need to go and you need to get through this thing or we're done. So she signed him up for this hike. He didn't sign up himself, but that was like his rehab. So any of you guys are struggling with issues, I don't know that I recommend 100 miles in the wilderness, but there are lots of programs, but this was his. Very far from Jesus, but he did something. He did something really sincere in Corey's life. So he continues to seek the Lord and still had like broken things in his life. Did any of you guys get saved and just suddenly you were hovering and perfect? Is that you? That was not my experience. I feel like I'm still nowhere near any of that. Ask Cole. But Corey continues to just try to love Jesus. And one day I'm praying, right? I'm in prayer and I'm talking to the Lord and I'm like, Jesus, you're awesome, you're great. And he's like, hey, I want you to talk to Corey about living with his girlfriend again. And I'm like, Lord, I don't want to be that religious guy pushing rules on people. And I don't recommend this type of interaction with God, but we just have a unique kind of relationship. And I was like, Lord, if you want me to do that, then have him bring it up and I'll do that. And I don't know what your prayer practices are, but ordinarily I make sure that my phone is really far away just because I'm so distracted and I just 20 minutes later, I'm like, oh yeah, I was praying. So my phone is always far away, but I'm like, Lord, you make him bring it up and I'll have that conversation. And for some reason, my phone was right next to my face. And I'm like, that's weird. And then it starts to go off. I pick it up and I'm going to silence it and it's Corey. And he's texting me and he's saying, hey dude, can I talk to you today? Maybe you think because I'm on this stage, I'm really spiritual and I got my life together. That's not true. It's just not true. And I'm like, we have a one-on-one tomorrow. Why don't we talk then? And he's like, it's really important. I'd love to talk to you today. I'm like, fine, I'll see you in a little bit. God be coming at me. Why won't you let me act a fool? He just won't. So I meet with Corey, no small talk this time, absolutely none. And he says, hey, I know sleeping with Jenna is sin, and we've decided that she needs to move out until we get married. Would you marry us? Would you marry me? Would you marry us? Guys, I nearly broke down. Like I nearly just lost it. Nearly lost it. And Jesus is so good, so good. And then got to do the wedding, and it was wonderful. It was incredible. Corey went on to finish his degree. Yeah, aren't they cute? Good looking folks. Every time she'd kiss him, she had a little step ladder she'd pull out, get up there. It was the cutest thing ever to see. I don't know where she kept it, but she always had it. So Corey went on to finish his degree, and instead of going into the workforce to make bank, he believed God could use his willingness to do greater things. So he joined my team as a missionary to university students. Later, Corey connected to a guy named Eric in a really critical time in his life. Things were getting kind of rocky for Eric. I knew him as a student. He was a bit of a punk, kind of like I was, but he was a bit of a punk and didn't have any time for anything, and then he just kind of bounced away. But the Lord arranged Corey to reconnect with Eric at just the right moment. The Lord used Corey's willingness to lead him to Eric on a day that Eric was considering just ending it all.
Wow.
He was almost en route to a bridge where things were going to happen. But the Lord used Corey's willingness just to reach out and to love this dude. And Eric recommitted his life to the Father. And it's really cool. Then he became a father, and then he became a father again. And just yesterday, I was at his son's first birthday. And none of that would have happened without someone's willingness. Eric wouldn't be here, therefore his beautiful wife wouldn't be with him, and Emma and Isaac, their two beautiful kids, wouldn't be here, but for someone's willingness to step into that space and to be used by God. And Eric believed God could use his willingness to do greater things than he believed, so when he graduated college, he also joined my team as a missionary to students. And for a season, Eric discipled a guy named Justin. Justin's family is from South Africa, and they actually came to the States. Yeah, he's a stud. He's got a twin brother. Dude, I had big sticks. I was beating them ladies off of him the whole time. You know he's cute. So his parents were missionaries to the U.S. Justin knew the right answers, but that he learned that there was a deeper thing of trust and surrender that he needed to experience with God. He needed to be allowing the Father into spaces that maybe he said, hey, you can come here, but you can't come here. And he began to just lean into Jesus, and Eric invested in his life, and then Justin began to disciple the guys around him. You might be catching the trend, but then Justin also was willing to offer himself to the Lord and believed that God would transform people around him. And he too joined my team as a missionary to university students. That's the last one. I won't tell you any more of that particular story, but God led Justin to Matt. Matt had recently committed his life to Jesus and was really looking for a group of people just to go deeper with. He needed people to walk alongside him and to help him to know truth and to work through challenging moments. And Justin just began to disciple and to invest in Matt. Matt believed God would use his willingness to make impact in the world around him bigger than he knows, so he began to disciple guys around him. This is Brandon. God led Matt to Brandon. Brandon has been offering his willingness to God to be used to do great things, and this is his second year leading a small group at Austin P. Can I tell you that I believe God is going to do incredible things through this dude. He loves big, even when like you're annoying or you're not thoughtful or you're not kind, man. Brandon will just continue to love you. He fights for dudes, and I think one of the things that I love about him the most is that he's not looking just for the easy way. He's not looking for just what's gonna feel best or whatever, and I'm just excited. I'm excited about what God's going to do. And you know, I could continue. I haven't told you anything about Neely, nothing about Tylen or Cody or Katie or Ben or Austin or Mike or so many, 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 many more. They weren't the best trained or the most spiritual or the most experienced, but they were giants where it mattered most. They were willing. They believed God could use their willingness to do something impossible that they couldn't do on their own. Can you? Can you believe God to use your willingness to do something great? Have you been thinking about it? Are you willing to not be perfect? To not have all of the answers? To not be the most spiritual? Can you believe God to use your willingness to do something great? Are you willing to host? Because that's where it comes down to. That is the easiest, simplest, most approachable touch that every one of you in this room can have in making impact in the lives of other people. It's okay to have 1,000 questions. Mosaic has a team built specifically for you to walk you through those questions. They have like thousands, literally, I'm not exaggerating, thousands of resources to help set you up for success. And all they're looking for, and all the Father is looking for, is your willingness. Could you make a couple hours each week for a Corey? I don't know what it feels like to be in the seat that you're in, because God sent a Corey to me and asked me to stop being a baby. But I feel like all of us are in a space now where we have to decide, will we step up and offer our willingness to host? My life has been changed because of a Corey. And my life has been changed because of an Eric, and other people's lives have been changed because of an Eric, and because of a Justin, and because of a Matt, and because of a Brandon, and it just keeps going. Is a couple hours each week more important to me than to be willing to see people's lives be changed as I place that time into the hands of my Father?